Well, we're going to return to the Syria situation now here on RT. The US government is rallying support both at home and abroad for a potential strike. In Washington, the House of Representatives Foreign Affairs Committee hearing on Syria is underway, and that's as the Senate panel has adopted amendments to the resolution authorizing military action that could expand the US military campaign against Syria. Well, RT's Marina Portnaya joins me live now. Marina, take us through what's been happening in Congress today.
A lot of things happening in Congress today. Let's begin with news of the U.S. Senate Foreign Relations Committee now approving a resolution for the use of force against Syria. The bill was passed in a 10-7 vote, with three Republicans voting with U.S. President Barack Obama with his plan. Now, the draft sets a 60-day deadline for use of military force in Syria, with one 30-day extension, and it also prohibits troops on the ground. The bill also includes an amendment by Senator John McCain indicating that the policy of the U.S. is to change the momentum on the battlefield in Syria. The other two goals aim to degrade Damascus's chemical weapons capability and strengthen the opposition. Now, this bill will now go to the full Senate for debate. But in the meantime, Secretary of State John Kerry, Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel, and Chairman of the Joint Chiefs General Martin Dempsey returned to Congress on Wednesday to testify before the House Foreign Relations Committee. Now, during his testimony, Secretary Kerry said that the U.S. is not the world's policeman, but it has a responsibility to act because of its great power and its great capacity. Kerry said America is blessed with a great military. And the U.S.'s top diplomat also warned representatives in the House that a lack of U.S. military action could fuel extremist fighters. Painting something of a very scary picture for the American public, Secretary Kerry said that if the U.S. doesn't strike Syria, countries that fund the opposition, like Saudi Arabia and Qatar, will begin giving more money to, quote, extremist fighters, unquote.
If we fail to pass this, those who are working with us today with the Syrian opposition, we've been working hard to keep them from funding bad elements, whether it's al-Nusra or others. And so if we back off and we fail to enforce our word here, I promise you that the discipline we've put in place with respect to the moderate opposition versus bad guys will dissipate immediately, and people will resort to anybody they can find to help them accomplish their goal, and we would have created more extremism and a greater problem down the road.
When asked by a U.S. representative how the Syrian government obtained chemical weapons, Secretary of Defense Chuck Hagel testified that Russia has supplied Damascus with some of their stockpile of chemical weapons. Now, this marks the very first time a U.S. official has publicly made that claim. And that accusation, perceived by many as a war of words, comes as the G20 summit is about to begin in St. Petersburg, Russia. That's a gathering that Secretary Kerry will not be attending as he continues campaigning on the Hill for more support for President Obama's ultimate goal to strike Syria.
Well, Marina, what is the latest from President Obama regarding this plan to strike the country?
Well, U.S. President Barack Obama says that when it comes to the use of chemical weapons in Syria, it's not his credibility on the line. He said it's the credibility of the international community that's on the line. He said when he made those comments about a red line being drawn a year ago, he said that he was just echoing what the international community has put in place. It's the international community's red line. Some perceive this as President Obama backpedaling on his own words, although he did say that it's up to Washington to back up the lip service that U.S. officials give to the notion of international norms and how important they are. He kept stressing how important international norms are. But the irony is that while he was invoking a list of international treaties as reasons to use force against Damascus, President Obama has already said that he's comfortable bypassing the UN Security Council and striking Syria without a resolution. Now, that move is a violation of the UN Charter and a violation of international law. Now, President Obama's comments came during a joint press briefing in Stockholm with the Prime Minister of Sweden. At that time, the U.S. leader said that it's been a difficult decision for him to make when it comes to striking Syria militarily, but he believes that taking action is better than standing by and doing nothing.
Increasingly, what we're going to be confronted with are situations like Syria, like Kosovo, like Rwanda, in which we may not always have a Security Council that can act. It may be paralyzed for a whole host of reasons. And so I think it's important for us to get out of the habit. Well, we should act internationally. Well, sometimes, because of the various alignments, it's hard to act through a Security Council resolution. And so either we resign ourselves to saying there's nothing we can do about it, and we'll just shake our heads and go about our business, or we make decisions even when they're difficult.
When a reporter asked the U.S. president what he would do if Congress rejects his request to use military force in Syria, he did not rule out going ahead with his plan without the approval of lawmakers. Now, President Obama also says that while Russia has so far disagreed with the U.S.'s course of action on Syria, he remains hopeful that that there's a chance that Russian President Vladimir Putin will change his position, possibly align more with the U.S. position. And President Obama says that he will continue to engage his Russian counterpart when it comes to the topic of Syria.
We have had a very constructive...
Marina, thanks very much indeed for that. That's RT's Marina Report now, live there from New York.